Hello to all my foodies out there. We are back with another recipe from Baking Yesteryear. Today we're making the cream spice cake, but I do want to give out a little disclaimer that I am filming this over a couple different days. I am making the cake, and then tomorrow I will be making the frosting for it. I do have to work later on today and did not want to be rushing with taking the cake out of the pan or making the frosting. I wanted this to turn out well, so I did decide to do this over 2 different days. So if you see me in different clothes and everything, that is why. This video should still post like normal. I am filming it earlier in the week. Today's Tuesday. I will make the frosting on Wednesday, and this will still post on Sunday like normal. But just timing, work schedules, all that good stuff, and wanted to make sure I had enough time to let my cakes cool before making the frosting for them. And I figured if I made the cakes today and did the frosting tomorrow, the cakes would be definitely completely cool, and there won't be any issues with that. So just my little disclaimer, this will be a little bit different of a video today, but not too much different from what I've been doing. And as time goes on, some of these videos might change a little bit as I kind of adapt to this. I'm still kind of new at this, so thank you for your patience. Like I said, today we are making the cream spice cake. I do really like spice cake, so I am very excited to try this. A spice cake is not something that I've had often, but I have had it a couple times. Typically with a cream cheese frosting. I did make a box mix for a spice cake a year or two ago with a cream cheese frosting and then a caramel glaze on top, and that was super good, but I have never made a spice cake from scratch, so this will be exciting. Like I said in other videos, I do really enjoy making cakes. One of my favorite things to bake, actually. So let's get started with this. I do have my pans prepped, buttered, and floured, and typically I don't always usually flour my pans, but I did today because that's what the recipe said. We've got butter. I've got my spices in here, which in here is cinnamon, ground cloves, ground allspice, nutmeg, and salt. The original recipe did call for mace, but said you could substitute nutmeg, so that is what I did. I've got flour, brown sugar, baking soda, egg yolks, and a sour cream. This is all the stuff that's going in with the cake. I will be using some of the egg whites tomorrow in the frosting, but I will go over that tomorrow when I get ready to make the frosting. So let's get started with the cake here. Okay, so I have the butter and the brown sugar all beat together. We are going to beat in our egg yolks now. Let me get those in there. Perfect. So I will beat these up, and then we will continue. So I've gotten my egg whites beaten into the brown sugar and the butter. It's looking really good. So we are going to continue on. In here, I've got my flour, and we are going to mix all the spices in with the flour here. These spices smell so good. I wish you guys could smell them, and I love, like, one of the things I do like about spice cake is that it does have a very fall feel to it, kind of Christmassy at the same time, which I love fall flavors love Christmassy scented stuff. Like, I don't necessarily like fall weather, but I like everything else about fall. I like the colors, I like the scents, the flavors, cinnamon, apple, caramel, all that good stuff that comes along with fall. I just don't like the cold weather that comes along with it. And this spice cake is a little bit like that. It's got like the warm spices and just a nice, just, I don't know, perfect for someone like me who likes all the fall flavors. So in this bowl here, I do have my sour cream. I did just buy a small little 8-ounce container, which is all that I needed. It called for a cup of sour cream. So that was perfect. And in this, we are going to add our baking soda. Which is a little unusual. I've never had cake instructions quite like that where you mix sour cream and baking soda together, but we'll see how this goes. Then once I get this all mixed up, it will be mixed into our creamed mixture, kind of alternating, which is pretty normal for cakes, cookies, most baking stuff. You kind of alternate between wet and dry ingredients. All right, so that's looking good. Our spice mix is looking good. I will get this batter finished up and I will be back in here for just a second. So earlier I did say egg whites, they were egg yolks, and I am hoping I did not screw up this cake. I accidentally put baking powder in instead of baking soda. I did add some baking soda to it. However, that was the only sour cream I had. So we're just going to go with it and see what happens. Hopefully it turns out okay. If it doesn't, I will come back to this recipe at some point and remake it. I think it'll be fine. But just a little slip up on my part, and hopefully it's not horrible. Fingers crossed, people. Okay, so I have my batter mixed up and I have it in my cake pans ready to pop it in the oven. I do have to say this was a very, very sticky cake batter and was kind of hard to spread in my pans. It was very thick. And it was easier to get spread out in my cake pans with a spoon rather than the spatula, but I did make it work. So I'm going to pop these in the oven and let them bake, and we will see what they look like when they're done. Okay, so I have my cakes out of the oven. They did bake up really, really nice. And I'm going to let them cool. When they're cool, I'll take them out of the pans, and like I said, I'm going to make the frosting tomorrow. So I will be back with you when I make the frosting. This will still all post in one video, but like I said, I am doing it over 2 different parts. So I will see you later when I get ready to make the frosting and assemble the cake, and then we will give it a try and see how this is. I do have to say it does smell amazing. It smells like the holidays. That kind of fall, winter, Thanksgiving, Christmas type season. Due to all the spices like the cinnamon and the nutmeg, just to give it a very holiday feel. I am looking forward to trying this and seeing how it is. I am a little nervous about making the frosting tomorrow. It is a boiled frosting, which I have never made before, so it will definitely be an experience, but I am excited to give it a try. So until then, I will see you later. Hello, everyone. We are back. Today, finishing up the cream spice cake from Baking Yesteryear. Today, I am making the frosting for it. I made the cakes yesterday, and we're going to do the frosting today. It is a boiled frosting, which I'm a little nervous about because I have never made a boiled frosting, but we're going to give it a try and see how it goes. Hopefully, I don't burn it or ruin it or anything like that. I will show you my cakes in just a second. They turned out really good. They smell amazing. I can't wait to try them. Um, for the frosting, we're going to be using some corn syrup. I saved some of the egg whites from yesterday for the frosting. We've got some water here, and then we are also going to be using some sugar, which I'm going to have to get some more sugar. I'm getting kind of low here. But anyway, besides the point, y'all really didn't need to know that, but there it is. I do have these covered with plastic, but if the cakes are done, they do look really good. I am going to move these aside, and we are going to get started with the frosting. Okay, so I have beaten up the egg whites for my frosting. I'm just going to let that sit over here. I did kind of do this a little bit out of order. The directions for the frosting recipe do say to get the sugar, corn syrup, and water started, and then while that is going to beat up your eggs, because I have never made a boiled frosting, I wanted to be able to focus on the boiled part of it, so I did beat up my egg whites first. So over here in my pan, I do have water, sugar, and the corn syrup. I do have my candy thermometer here, which I will use for the frosting too, because it does have to reach a certain temperature and everything. I am going to be making the rest of the frosting from here on out off camera, but I will let you guys see it when it's done, of course. But just because this is a new cooking experience for me, I do want to be able to focus on that and give it my full attention. So when I have the frosting done, I will show you guys. All right, so I have my frosting done. I think I beat this enough to where I can spread it on my cake. I did try a little bit of it and kind of licked my beaters like a little kid, but it did kind of remind me of marshmallow cream as far as taste and texture goes. So let me get this on my cakes and I will show you what everything looks like when it's all finished. Okay, so I did just want to pop in here really quick. I do have my first layer of my cake frosted. I'm going to add the second layer and then frost the rest of it, and we will see how this goes. I might actually have frosting left over, which is all right. I'd rather have some left over than not enough for the entire cake. I'm always worried about that. But so far it's looking pretty good. Okay, so I have my cake done. It is a little droopy looking. Cake decorating is not my thing. It's definitely not pretty. You can definitely see where the layers are in it, but we're still going to eat it anyway. It should be fine. I think I probably should have beat up the frosting a little bit more because it is still a little soupy, but it's going to be all right. So overall, I'm okay with how this turned out. Um, Next time I feel like my frosting might turn out a little bit better because I do kind of know what I'm doing now. Um, but overall, it'll be fine. I am going to stick this in my refrigerator because it is really hot where I'm at right now. And that could be part of why my frosting's not super frostingy. Like it is definitely more like a marshmallow cream than it is like a frosting. But we'll see how this goes after it's been in the fridge for a little bit. Hopefully it sets up like a little bit more and it's not quite so soft for the frosting. But like I said, we're going to eat it anyway, and I will let you guys know how it turns out as a final product as far as taste and everything goes in a little bit, because like I said, I do want to let this set just a bit, so I will see you later. All right, so I do have my cake done. The frosting did set up a little bit in the fridge. I am very excited to try this, so let's see how it is. Okay, so final thoughts on the spice cake. I liked it. It did turn out really good, despite the little baking soda, baking powder mix up. It had a really good flavor. Um, Probably not something I would make all the time. I do like space cake, but not on a regular basis. Um, if I was going to make this again, I probably would make it in the fall or during the holiday season, um, because of the flavors that are in it. It does have a very fall holiday-ish feel to it and would definitely be good around that time of year. I don't know if I would make the frosting with it when I make it again, if I make it again. I think a regular cream cheese frosting would be better. Um, my frosting did not quite turn out the way I wanted it to. Um, and I think that was partly due to the fact that I had never made a boiled frosting before, and I know it does take practice. Um, and I would make a boiled frosting again. I just don't know if I would pair it with the spice cake is all. Um, and it was also very warm and humid when I made it, so that could have factored into it too. It just was a little soggy, soupy, droopy. Um, it did set up a little bit better after I stuck the cake in the refrigerator. Um, However, it was not really like a frosting. It ended up being more like marshmallow cream, both in taste and texture, which is not a bad thing necessarily. It's just not what I was expecting out of the frosting for the cake. It did complement the cake pretty well. Um, the cake itself was not very sweet, but the frosting was, so it did kind of balance out. Um, I really did like the walnuts on top of the cake. It did give it a nice little crunch to it. Overall, I am okay with how this turned out. Um, it's hasn't been my favorite recipe from this book so far, but it hasn't really been my least favorite yet either. Um, I will say it is probably one of the ones that I am least likely to make again, just because spice cake is kind of a mood thing for me, and honestly, I'm more inclined to use a box mix just because it's a little quicker, a little easier, but it is nice to have a from scratch homemade recipe on hand that I can use if I don't feel like making a box mix, or if I don't have a box mix that I can use and really want a spice cake. So overall, it was all right. Like I said, not the best, not the worst, just kind of in the middle. I might make this again in the fall or during the holiday season and try it with a cream cheese frosting and see how it turns out then. If I do, I will let you guys know how it is. Um, so with that said, I think I'm going to wrap up the spice cake here. I do want to give a little note for the next couple of videos that I have coming up. We're still going to be continuing with Baking Yesteryear. However, I am kind of swapping the order that I'm going to be filming the next two videos in. They won't be in the exact order that they are in the book, um, like they have been so far, mostly just due to timing. So next week I will be making the election cake, which is a yeast cake, which I've never made before and I'm kind of curious about. Um, and then the week after that, I will be doing the Sandtort, which is kind of like a pound cake from what I've been reading. Um, the election cake has to rise a couple hours, and making that next week is just going to be a little bit easier for me with my days off um, from work and everything. I didn't really have a good time to make the election cake if I didn't make it on my days off next week. Um, so I am going to be flipping those two recipes around, but we still will be covering both of them, just not in the same order that they are in the book. But it's still going to be a good time. So until then, good times, good food. Bye.